Hi everyone, this is John Bacon and welcome to another one of my video guides, informed rambles. I'm not really sure what we call these, but we're here again. This is done for the Open Org, who are a fantastic organization who do great work. Go and check them out in the video description below. Now, today I want to talk about 10 avoidable community mistakes. These are things that I've noticed in my career. There are, of course, many more avoidable community mistakes, but let's start with these. I'm going to try and go a bit quicker today because the last few videos have been a bit long and rambly, and no one wants to listen to me for too long. So let's get cracking. So the first one is building one-sided value. This is a very common problem that I see where a company who wants to build a community, they think about what can we get out of it for our company very specifically, and they don't put enough attention onto what the community members get out of it. So from the company's perspective, you might want to have people answering questions, writing software, organizing events, performing advocacy. But what are your community members going to get out of it for them? You know, do they want to build their experience? Do they want to build their network? Do they want to just have fun? So think about it from those two angles. It's very important to do this. The companies that tend to fail in this kind of work are ones that essentially engineer a power imbalance where there's a mentality that the company's in charge and the community members are subservient to them. And community members don't want to do work that only benefits your company. They want to do work that benefits the broader community of which your company is one piece of that. All right, number 2, little to no strategy. Now, sadly, a lot of companies will hire a community manager who will come in and then they'll start blogging and doing social media and organizing events and stuff like that. And they'll basically throw things at the wall and see what sticks. This is a very risky strategy because I think what it does is it builds a lot of short-term value, but it doesn't build a consistent, capable community machine. You should be looking at your community as a full end-to-end experience. How do we get people interested in coming into it? How do they get onboarded? How do they participate? How do we mentor and support them? How do we incentivize and reward them? How do we do all of these things and build that kind of belonging and long-term participation and retention? You have to look at that as a strategy. There's lots of different components to that, and you should be focusing on how you can move the needle on each of those different components, both in terms of short-term benefits and then long-term benefits too. 3, trying to be all things to all people. Again, this is a mistake that I see a lot of companies making when I start working with them as a client, which is they want to have people adding tons of different types of value in their community. They want them to be answering questions and organizing events and performing advocacy and all kinds of stuff. You can't do all of those things well. So focus on a couple, 1 or 2, and do them well. If you want to focus on, for example, building a community that provides support or building a community that organizes events, focus on those 2 and do them really well. Support those members, give them the tools and the knowledge and everything they need to be successful. And then once you've done that, then start layering on top of that and adding more and more things. Don't try to be all things to all people. 4, siloing your community under a single team. Oh, this is a big mistake. Again, a pattern I often see is a company will hire a community manager. They'll come in. Initially, there'll be a novelty around this community in the early stages of it. People will be very excited to work with it. And then as the novelty tends to wear off, the rest of the company will kind of go back to their normal day jobs. And everybody will basically think that community manager is the ambassador and the owner of the community experience. So they can take care of everything. They can engage and communicate with the community members, and we can just kind of get on and do what we want to do. Don't do this. The companies that succeed building communities instill that community is a part of the company culture and a part of the overall product that you're delivering. It's not just the service or the product that you're building. The community is a piece of that, and that everybody should play a role in that, whether you're an executive or whether you're right on the ground as a ground troop and all those layers in between. That's the hardest bit about building communities and building organizational capabilities with communities is building that sense of engagement inside the company, right? So focus on that. Build that as a habit. Do not silo it under a single team. I guarantee you it's going to start causing problems. 5, hiring the wrong kinds of roles. Now, I'm talking about community roles specifically here. I tend to think of essentially three broad types of community roles that we have. We have, first of all, directors of community, we have community managers, and then we have community evangelists. There are, of course, many nuances in this, and different people call themselves different things and do, perform roles in different ways. But as a general rule, to me, a director of community is very strategic in nature, can build out that broader strategic plan, can gather stakeholder input, can engage with members, really has a nose for building a strong community. Community managers lack some of that strategy, but they're very, very tactile and hands-on with their community. They're the people who everybody knows and who all the community members know. They're solving problems. They're just day-to-day road warriors getting this stuff done. And community evangelists are very focused on awareness, right? They're not necessarily as strategic in nature, but they're very focused on getting out and speaking at events and doing social media and blogging and all that kind of stuff and raising awareness to bring people in. They're filling the funnel, essentially. Now, don't shout at me, people. I know some of you are not going to neatly fall into those three roles, and I'm not saying everybody's like that, just to reiterate. But you want to make sure you hire the right kind of people for this. If you're brand new, if you're starting a brand new community, then you need someone who's going to be strategic in nature. You need someone who's got the director of community kind of skills. If you already have a successful community strategy up and running and you need to get the word out about it, then an evangelist is a great person to bring in. So think about the right kind of roles. Don't hire the wrong kind of roles to build out your community. All right, 6, creating an us and them culture. This is a very clear, in my mind, a clearly avoidable community mistake. In every community, particularly ones that have got companies involved, there's a power balance. In every room, there's a power balance and a power dynamic. And the healthiest relationships, the healthiest companies, the healthiest communities have a very, very clear, open, and malleable power dynamic. The greatest leaders will very easily accept that they're wrong and always learn from people, no matter what level in the company or where they come from. So you do not want to set up a community where your company thinks that it's in charge, it makes all the decisions, it approves everything, it controls everything. That is not an environment that most people want to operate in at a volunteer level. It's not an environment within a community, either inside of a company or outside of a company, that people particularly enjoy being in. Communities thrive when people feel like they can earn the ability to influence, that they can improve, they can hack on, they can refine and optimize the community and how it operates and how it works and how those relationships are formed. You can only do that if your company, if it's the main stakeholder or the main driver of a community, if your company is willing to give people the oxygen to be able to influence, okay? So you've got to think very careful about where you draw the line. Most companies can't just give everybody the power, right? You've got to have clear leadership. If you don't have clear leadership, your community is going to suck. But how is that leadership deployed and where do you draw those lines? This, again, should be part of your strategy. Think very carefully about how you do this. It's really, really critically important. All right, 7. Are we at 7? Yeah, 7. Spinning up too much infrastructure. Oh, man. This is a problem I often see where a new community spins up, either a volunteer community or part of an organization, and they think, okay, well, we need a forum, we need a Slack channel or a Mattermost channel, we need to set up a wiki, we need an event management system, we need a contributor management system, we need these metric tracking tools. Don't do that, okay? Don't set up 150 different GitHub or GitLab repositories. Start simple. This is a consistent theme in the work that I always do and how I talk to my clients and what I write about and how I talk about this kind of stuff in videos and elsewhere. Start simple and build, okay? If you every time you add too much detail, too much infrastructure, you're adding complexity, and that's going to impact your confidence in the work that you're doing, and that's going to add too many variables that you can screw up, okay? So if, for example, if you're starting a software project, just start out with a GitHub or a GitLab repo, an issue tracker, and some way of keeping in touch, even if it's just email. Layer on everything else once you get up and running, once you start doing great work, okay? Because commissioning and decommissioning infrastructure takes time, takes energy, and it's really not the primary focus of what you should be doing. Who cares about the tools? What we care about is doing great work. All right, growing too fast, too soon. That is number 8. Can't count on my fingers. This is very related to setting up too much infrastructure at the beginning. There are some communities who want to make sure everything is in place. Every possible scenario is being thought of when they get right out the gate. I remember working with one local community once, and they set up 2 or 3 governance boards, and they had like 13 members. So don't do that. Start very simple. Have a very clear leader who's operating, or a couple of clear leaders, and define your culture and your cultural norms, put together a code of conduct, and put together, what you expect to see and how the community is going to operate, and get people in and start doing great work, and then grow from there. Don't set up all this governance and don't set up all this complex leadership and infrastructure and whatever else. It's just going to overcomplicate things. Start simple and build stuff. If your community is building software, then focus on building software. If you haven't built something interesting within a couple of months, why? Focus on that. If you're doing advocacy or awareness or activism, focus on getting the word out there. Don't focus too much on complex workflow and whatever else. Simplicity is the key here. All right, number 9. Hang on, I can't bend my fingers. Having too much or too little data. There is a problem, I think, with a lot of software people, particularly, that because they understand how to operate software and they understand the potential of software, that they want to instrument everything. They seek to set up these ridiculous dashboards with 1,000 different metrics, and the view is we want to count everything just in case we need it in the future. Okay? And what you get is these massively complex charts and dashboards, and the only person who understands that is the person who set it up. But then the inverse of that, the other extreme, is people who think, we'll just set it up and just go for it and see what happens. And they don't have any metrics. They don't track anything. Focus on the right number, okay? Think about the value that you want to define for both members and for your company, and pick 5 metrics, or 10 metrics, or 15. The number is not important. It's just the core things that you need to focus on to be able to assess whether that work is actually happening. It's really important that you track your work, that you measure it. If you're not measuring it, you're not succeeding. You're not managing it, okay? And we always want to be able to move the needle. Even if we know that we're not going to hit that goal, knowing why we didn't hit it, or knowing that we didn't hit it in the first place, is a good trigger of a conversation, so we can start understanding what are the reasons behind why we struggled here. Is it our messaging? Is it our infrastructure? Is it the way in which we're engaging with people? But you need the right amount of data. The last thing you should be doing is having meeting after meeting talking about dashboards and numbers and infrastructure and all that kind of stuff. It just adds too much complexity. Focus on a small set of numbers and do them well. 10, the final one. Thinking you know it all. Now, I've been doing this. I've been working in community management and strategy for 20 years, right? And I've spent the majority of my waking moments thinking about this stuff. I've read countless books, I've watched seminars, I've talked to thousands of people. I've spent a lot of time on this. And at one point in my career, I thought I've pretty much got this figured out. This was about 5 years ago. I think I understand how this stuff works, due to all of this time and effort spent into this and the longevity of focusing on this. And when I think about what I've learned in the last 5 years, it's just profound. It makes me realize just how little I knew 5 years ago, not how much I knew. And in 5 years from now, I'll realize how little I know about this stuff when I watch this video back, from my flying car or whatever's going to be happening. We don't know it all. Community strategy and management is a really complex subject because it's the balance of psychology and tools and ambition. And those are 3 very, very complicated areas that are melded and merged together in a world and an environment where our attention is being sought more than ever before, okay? So if you go into this and you think, well, we've got all the answers, we know what we're doing, we've got this figured out, you're going to fail. Or if you don't fail, you're going to not be able to do the best work that you can do. Go into all of this and say, we're learning. We're going to fail, we're going to screw it up, we're going to make some mistakes. And learn from other people. Don't just learn from other, well-known community people, community management type people. Learn from your members. All the answers to your questions are tied up in your community members' heads. Learn from not just the people in your industry. Talk to your friends, talk to your family. You know, it's amazing what you can learn from people who've got no involvement whatsoever in the specific things you're working on, because they look at life through a different lens and they look at life through a different angle. I think that's probably the most important one of all of these, is that we have to deliver this work at every step of the way and say, like, are we doing this right? Or how can we improve? Celebrate your successes, but also focus on how you can be a constant student and learn more about this kind of stuff. All right, I think I'm done. I'm going to wrap this up. I hope this is shorter. Let's have a look. Hang on. 15 minutes still. I think I'm just a born rambler, people. I'm sorry. It's just the way it works. Anyway, thank you for watching this. If you've got to this point, I really appreciate it. And I hope some of this was useful. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let us know in the video comments. See, contribute your ideas, or tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where I've got this wrong, or tell me where I've kind of got the balance a little bit out of whack. I'd love to hear what you've got to say. All right, folks, take care.